Yo, what is good? It is Store 89 show, and we are back loud, live, and in color. So before we get started, we're going to break you guys off with a little instrumental. No copyright infringement intended. So yeah, let's get started. Come on, press play. Y'all, we're having some technical difficulties. For real? Okay, there we go. Hey. Hey. All right.
Ooh. Hey. Welcome back to the Store 89 show, where we serve the coffee and the tea.
Hey, and trust me, the tea is piping hot today.
They're so funny. Okay, so who's starting?
So from the title of the title from the show, today's episode is going to be Storytime. So with us working at Store 89, I almost said the actual name of the store. I caught myself. We have some really interesting stories that we would like to share, and it's going to segue into a conversation that we're going to have in future weeks to come. So, who wants to start with a story that they had on or off the clock at Stowe 89?
I think you should, because Shaquille wasn't there. I was there, but I wasn't there. I was the.
Okay, here we go. So, I think the conversation that we're about to get into is going to be in regards to boundaries. And one of the biggest things that I have learned just in my overall experience working is that when you try to be a good friend to someone else, sometimes they might end up not necessarily stabbing you in the back, but doing some shit that really could get you in a world of trouble to some degree. And I kind of had to learn the hard way. So, because we're not trying to get sued, we have come up with nicknames. They're going to be flavors of people that have come across Store 89. So, by the way, y'all give us y'all nicknames first before we get into it.
So I'm chocolate.
I think I'm caramel.
Yes, you caramel, baby. You caramel.
Thank you.
And that leaves me as passion fruit. Now, you're probably wondering why I'm passion fruit. I'm a passionate bitch, and that's just what it is. Point period. So, anyway, going on to the story. So, the person, their name is going to be called Red Velvet. So, Red Velvet and I have known each other for I'm going to say about 6 months to about a year. And Red Velvet was kind of down on their luck. So I reached out to them, just being the person that I am. I said, hey, my job is hiring. How would you like to work at Store 89? He was like, okay, yeah, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Okay, cool. I knew once you got the interview, 9 times out of 10, you going to get the job. It's a done daughter, just because I'm just quiet as a kept. Store 89 was the shit.
They be hiring anybody.
Coming and going like motherfucking...
Store 89 and all the other stores out there will hire anybody.
Yeah, we had
because I'm not just anybody, okay?
I mean, obviously we not either, but we're saying there were some cases where we were like, what?
Yeah, espresso. No shade. Let me not.
So
anyway, so when Red Velvet came on the scene, initially started off real good, was a hardworking individual, and then out of nowhere kind of got lax. Now, I'm the type of person that if I ride for you, I am one of those. I will ride for you. I will ride for you till the wheels fall the fuck off, till we driving on nothing but the rim. That is the type of person that I am. Mm-hmm. However, in Prince fashion, people tend to take my kindness as a weakness. So it was just little things here and there, not showing up, making up excuses here and this, that, and the third. And finally, it got to a point where DC, Dark Chocolate, boss man, was like, hey, you need to let your boy know, like, hey, you need to go ahead and handle that, have a conversation with him. Otherwise, he about to get booed. So I had a conversation with him. I had a conversation with Red Velvet, and it basically went one ear and out the other. And next thing you know, there was some type of, conversation between him and Dark Chocolate. And before you know it, his ass was fired. Baby, I was hot as fucking fish grease.
We remember.
You really had to go there, did you?
Finish. I want you to finish.
But see, the thing was, I wasn't mad at Red Velvet. I was mad at DC. I was like, why did you fire him? Like, if you know, but my thing was like, why you gonna fire him when we shorthanded as it is?
Oh, because DC don't know what shorthanded was. DC didn't understand.
Let me tell you though, being shorthanded is actually a little bit better than trying to work with somebody who don't know what they're doing on the clock. Because then you got to constantly stop what you're doing and try to be patient with them and help the customers, and they over there messing up stuff. So yeah, sometimes it's just a little bit better to be shorthanded with someone else who knows how to get through the shift.
But continue on, because he showed himself.
Mm-hmm.
He did.
Yeah, I agree.
He really sweet. Just I think that time frame, he was just going through a lot and no guidance.
Yeah.
No guidance, Chris Brown. Okay.
And this is where sorry, what were you saying?
I was saying that I do agree with you on that, but in hindsight, they ended up doing better. They ended up finding a job that was conducive to what their lifestyle is now. And I still keep in contact with Red Velvet. I still have nothing but the utmost respect and the utmost love for him. But this is going to segue into a conversation that we all three of us know too well. Shorthanded. Speak on it. Don't take a week on it.
Go ahead.
Well, I want to bounce back to the boundaries part, because there's two aspects of that are really important. Mm-hmm. Having boundaries with friends and then having boundaries with coworkers. Like you said, I also tried to hook up a friend with a job at Store 89, because in the past, like previous to me working at Store 89, she had hooked me up with a job too. So I was just trying to return the favor. Y'all, stop laughing. That girl. But it's important to know like who is in your life and for what reasons, because not everyone is on the same wavelength. Not everyone is on the same life path. Not everyone wants the same things that you do. So it's just important to know special groups of people for certain purposes. So sometimes just because they're your friend doesn't mean they're going to make a good person to be working with on the clock. And then out of that situation, Prince, after that, when Red Velvet got fired for being a no call, no show like 2 or 3 times, and
baby.
Child, she didn't disappear.
Technical difficulties. We back.
I don't know what that was.
Listen, let there be light. Hallelujah. You back, girl.
Where did I get cut off at?
You got cut off at by the time RV got fired because of the no call, no show 2 or 3
right.
times.
So Red Velvet got fired because he was a no call, no show. When he was on the clock, he was of no use to anybody. And he's a great person. And if you're watching it, because I know he saw our preview, he's a great person, but it just wasn't the correct fit for him at Store 89. So there was no reason why he shouldn't have been fired. It was with good cause that he was let go.
Oh yeah.
When when you came back ready to go off on Boss Man, Dark Chocolate, ready to set it off on this motherfucker, you did not have a correct sense of boundaries in that moment. And you do now, because you were approaching the situation as you were
Captain Saberho.
a barista. You were a barista trying to go off on the person in charge over another barista. So that's why it's so important to know who you have in your life. Sometimes we be wanting the best for folks and they don't want it for themselves.
I agree with you on that, to be honest with you. In hindsight, I look about it, now that I look at it, I was wrong. I was 1,000% wrong. I could have, that was just me in a moment, just being impulsive and being angry and allowing my anger to get the best of me, because I really cared about Red Velvet. I still care about him. And I was really disappointed. And I just felt like if I recommended you for this job, that you're a reflection of me. And I was really concerned that I potentially could get in trouble. But at that point, I had already shown what I was capable of doing, you know?
Child, when you opened your mouth, you was in trouble. I said, "Oh Lord!"
Right?
He did what?
Yeah.
So yeah, that, and then of course there's plenty of like lessons of like boundaries on the clock, like that time period, and there was like different times where we were shorthanded and we were the ones that were getting called into work every day. Like there was a period of time where we worked for like 2 months straight with no days off, which is against the law, but we was in there. So
to this day, Dark Chocolate owe us.
mm-hmm. We are owed so many lunches, so many free lunches from our boss. 1,000 thank yous, 1,000. I used to get so heated every time he said that. I would want to chop him in his throat, talking about 1,000 thank yous. Let me go home. How about that?
1,000 thank yous. I will listen. Universe, 1,000 thank yous, 1,000 gratitude, baby. Because
maybe a week or two off. Like, no. Y'all ever paid attention to, not to jump off subject, how many vacations this man took?
He took at least 2 a year.
He was gone all the time.
He was gone on Sunday. That's what, he was always gone on Sunday. I never saw him work a Sunday.
He used to come in like occasionally Sunday nights for inventory if it was like month-end inventory, but Sundays are his holy days. He came in once for month-end inventory.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Tell the truth, shame the devil. Okay. y'all be giving this man too much credit, too much power. Boundaries. And he would love to take credit for our growth. Boundaries here.
You're right. That's all us. That's all us. We were instrumental in our own growth. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I just want to segue that into a discussion about how important boundaries are in real life. And I've discussed this on so many different platforms. Like, I made a website dedicated to it years ago. I made a podcast dedicated to it, I think probably not less than 6 months ago. And both of them were called Sarabi Speaks. And they were both like just talking about levels of self-love which I broke down, or levels of self-care that I broke down into self-love and boundaries and self-awareness and generational healing and things like that. And to me, boundaries are the most important aspect of self-care that anyone can have. And I'll tell you why. Because when you go through things in life, And you kind of have to build yourself back up from that when you have to go through things alone and you come out unscathed and you come out still loving and still open and still vulnerable. You have to protect that because people are going to see that you've changed. People are going to see that you have essentially glowed up. People are going to see that you're not the same naive person that you were, that they may have knew. They're going to see that you evolved. And if you aren't careful to protect that from people who want to take advantage of it, you're going to end up in a worse place than you were before. And I can testify to that. Okay.
Well, I can testify too.
Testify.
Now, I guess my question to you about that, Sarah, because we had a conversation about this, because sometimes people do take advantage of people, and it's more of, I wouldn't say it's unbeknownst to them, but it might be something that's done subconsciously because they might not know their worth.
That's very true, and that is exactly why self-love, boundaries, and self-awareness are like the three. It's a constant revolution. It's a constant circle. It's a constant. You have to go bounce from one to the other. Because if you're not aware of the fact that you tend to attract people who want to take advantage of you, and you keep falling into the same life lesson over and over again, it's because you're really not learning. It's because you're really not aware. It's because you're really not tapped into what is this part of me that makes me feel like I'm not worthy enough to find someone who's already done the work on themselves like me. Why do I keep allowing myself? Why do I keep entertaining the same foolishness? You know?
Preach, girl, preach.
You're right. Yeah, I agree.
So tell us a little bit, like, what are good boundaries versus bad boundaries? I mean,
so
like, what practices would you
versus bad boundaries? So I say bad boundaries when sometimes people will build up walls and call them boundaries, and I'll say boundaries and walls are two completely different things, but they can be similar in the way that people process them in life. So that I would call a wall a bad boundary, because boundaries aren't meant to harm anyone. Walls, on the other hand, are things that we set up when, say, we experience a bad life situation, someone breaks our heart, we go through something, somebody dies, we lose a job, life be happening. And so instead of taking time to heal that part of us, say you go out and then you act like you're really not affected by it, and you pretend that you're still happy, you try and move on, you try to live your life, but then someone good has to come into your life, they try to treat you correctly, and then you don't know how to actually accept that now because you're still jaded and you're building up a wall, and you call it, well, I'm just putting up boundaries right now. That's not a boundary. Because and it's the reason why I keep looking off to the side is because I have notes, because like I said, I've written and talked about this so many times now. So boundaries are a very hard lesson to learn for most, but they are absolutely necessary, because boundaries are the foundation for us to build our self-care routines upon. So I say the first step into placing boundaries into our life would be honest communication with people. And let's just break that down, like honest communication. It's very much easier said than done. And okay, on the clock at store 89, honest communication, that's something that was not going on. Store meeting. We just went over that last week about how people, we be beefing with each other. People be hot. People be ready to fight on the clock. And then when the store meeting comes, everyone wants to sit down and act like, oh, well, I don't care. I'm just here to get a paycheck. Yeah, we're all here to get a paycheck, but you're clearly mad and no one wants to be on the clock feeling some type of way. Store 89 was too small of a store for us all to be walking around having attitude all day. So
small stuff too, small stuff.
It's too small. And then, outside of Store 89, life is too short for you to not be out here telling people how you feel. And you're doing a disservice to yourself. You're doing a disservice to them. and you're doing a disservice to the universe. You're not doing anybody any favors constantly putting yourself last, constantly blocking your throat chakra, constantly not saying it with your chest because you're afraid of what their reaction is going to be. Because
people, if you don't say it, they can't change it. Duh.
Exactly. If you and then you have no right to get an attitude at that point. And I'm talking about me right now because I'm a Cancer and it's hard. We live in a shell. When we're naturally passive aggressive people. So you can't sit up here and get mad at somebody for something when you didn't express that what they did hurt you in the first place.
Well,
I'm talking to myself right now. If this resonates with y'all, blessings. But I'm talking about my toxic traits right now. Honest communication is a hard thing for me. Setting boundaries are a hard thing for me, especially when I'm dealing with people that I am romantically inclined to. And even not people that I consider friends, family and friends, that was a hard lesson for me to learn, to not constantly be giving out 80% of myself and only receiving 20% in return. Mm-hmm. And then not saying anything about it because I know it was wrong, but I was afraid of how they would react. Let motherfuckers walk out of your life, okay? Let them go. Bye. In my myth head's voice. Bye. Do y'all before I continue, do y'all have anything you want to say?
So we had a conversation about this earlier, and I'm Taurus, and a lot of times Tauruses are very stubborn, but we are very down to earth, and when we care, we are passionate about it. And for me, I can be naive at times, and I can own that. I can own that. Because I do believe in people and I do see the kindness of people at times. And it's difficult because, at the end of the day, we all want love to a certain degree, but it has to start with you. And for me, I felt like at a point I was kind of I was in this labyrinth. And if you don't know what a labyrinth is a maze, but it's a circular maze. And there's so many twists and turns, but the silver lining in all of this is that to a certain degree, I was able to get out and continue about what I need to do for the next chapter in my life. And I know that it gets hard. It does. You know what I'm saying? I struggle with it. It's this polarity. It's that yin, it's that yang. But I'm a firm believer that things happen for a reason. I felt like I needed to be taught a lesson. And hopefully this will resonate with someone else that might be listening as well. Love yourself. Like RuPaul says, love yourself. How the hell are you going to love somebody else if you can't love yourself? Can I get an amen up in here?
Amen. Love yourself and set boundaries around that love. Because if you're not careful, a lack of boundaries will fuck up all the hard work that you've done on establishing and maintaining a self-love routine. And I'll tell you why. So on some real shit, back in 2017, like late 2017 is when I went back to dancing full time and started meal prepping. And it was out of the situation that ended with me and white chocolate. Chocolate and white chocolate had a thing going on for about 3 months, and then it ended terribly. So then I went through what I needed to go through, and I started discovering a self-love routine, which I didn't know what that was. Self-love wasn't even a word in my vocabulary up until that point. But long story short, I was doing my thug thizzle. I was dancing. I was meal prepping. I met so many wonderful new women who were on the same journey as me, people who have life to live, people who have toxic jobs, people who go to school, people who, have family issues and they still meet up at this dance studio every night and still, strive to do something with their lives. And I was in my bag. Things were good. And then what happened was I let somebody stay with me for a few weeks, and it wasn't a man. And let this be a lesson. Like, people, it doesn't always have to be romantic relationships that mess up your life. It can be anybody if you're not diligent and discerning. So this grown woman in her 40s who was like a student at the studio as well, she had a nice vibe about her. She got along with a lot of people, and it got to the point she asked me if she could stay with me for a few weeks while her new apartment was being prepared. And I said, okay, cool. I have 6 other roommates right now, so I don't want you out on the street. So yeah, you can stay with me for a few weeks, right? I should have said no. I didn't have any business having. First of all, I already lived with 6 people, and we didn't get along that well. So there was no reason for me to invite somebody else in that home, and that was my mistake. But I was trying to be nice. So it ended up blowing up in my face. She was in my space. I'm getting up to go to work at like 4 o'clock in the morning every day. She's still there. I come back home from work around like 12 or 1, and you're still in the same spot. You're still in my space. So like that happened. And then it ended up being a thing of where I moved out of the house. And then it happened so quickly to where I didn't take enough time to find the right place to live after that. So I ended up moving into this studio apartment in Culver City that was like out of my budget. And then I was using credit cards to try and pay for rent and utilities, and that didn't work. So then I had to move out of that place, and I was like couch hopping for a little bit. I was homeless for a little bit. I was taking showers at the gym for a little bit. And fast forward to where we are now, it's 2020. And I think I've lived in like at least 10 different places since 2018. So I just say that to say, if you're not careful, if you're not diligent, if you're not woman or man enough to tell people no, fuck being nice sometimes, okay? You need to learn how to say no, okay? Because other people's issues are not always your issues. You're not here to save. You can't save someone if you're not out here saving yourself, okay? You can't give somebody what you can't already give yourself. Say no. Don't be afraid to say no, okay? Don't let some random person hop up in your life and you feel like I would want someone to do the same thing for me when they wouldn't. They wouldn't. They act like they would and they wouldn't. So don't be out here messing up relationships with people, messing up your credit, not really having stable places to live for years to come because someone comes into your life. And it might not happen like that in your life. It probably doesn't happen like that in most people's life. But I feel like that it happened in my life, and it was for a significant reason. That took up a large chunk of my time and energy in my early 20s dealing with that. I'm grateful that it happened so early, because now I have a chance to fix it. And I'm grateful for the place I'm in now because I have a chance to actually make it a home and things are great. But yeah, that's just my story on what lack of boundaries will do to your life. Like, I got to rebuild my credit.
Well, I mean,
move around
realization right there. Realization.
Yeah. Thank you. What next? I will say, do you guys have anything to say before I move on to my next point?
Nah, child, you killing this.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay. This episode is dedicated to Sunny.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I'll say that all that stuff happened. Also, I had gained weight. Like I worked so hard to lose weight, and I was snatched, honey. And then I gained all that stuff back. So don't be out here. Don't fuck it up, man. When you work hard to get to a certain place in life, don't let people come in and mess it up. Set boundaries. I feel so passionately about this. So My next point, lack of boundaries stems from a lack of respect you have for yourself. However, if you're offended by that, it is the truth. That's a fact. It stems from a lack of respect you have for yourself because how dare you prioritize someone else's needs over your own? This is the true meaning of self-respect. Okay, self-respect doesn't have to do with any other BS you heard about how many people that you have or haven't slept with, or what your workout routine is like, or what your career path is. None of that stuff has anything to do with how much you respect yourself. It has to do with how you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself. What do your boundaries look like? Are you constantly falling into situationships with people, doing things like, you know, we friends, we quote unquote friends, but there's this weird flirtatious energy exchange going on, and now we're having sex, but we never talked about, exclusivity. So now we just fuck buddies, and now one of us is confused, but we feel too uncomfortable to bring it up because we never had a conversation about it. Are you okay? If you constantly fall into situations like that, you need to take a look at your boundaries. Okay? Don't be and again, I'm preaching to myself. If you're uncomfortable asking somebody questions, you don't need to be having sex with them. Let it go. I know they're fine. I've dealt with some fine men in my life. And I tell you what, I felt uncomfortable asking them questions. Except for this previous situation, I'll say the first one. When I was dealing with white chocolate, I felt uncomfortable asking him questions because when I did, he would go and start talking about his his exes and his alcoholic tendencies and his daddy issues. So if y'all
look at that.
what
No
happened?
accountability at all.
No accountability. People will gaslight you. And I'll tell you what, start tasing these niggas, okay? Stop letting these men gaslight you and start tasing them. If you don't want to walk away peacefully and quietly, sometimes that's necessary. That's the best exit strategy, to just maintain your peace of mind. But if someone has you effed up, tase them. These
people do not really pull out tasers. I have to say that because we live in a Trump university, okay? So do not really pull out your taser, metaphorically tase them. Shut it down, shock them, all of that. She don't mean pull out your taser, people.
All right. What Shakia said. What next? I'll say the only people who have a problem with you establishing boundaries in your life are people who stand to benefit from you not having any. And that goes for family, for friends, for coworkers. When you start to move different, act different, say no to certain things. Like when you make time, say people are, you're a certain crew of friends that you go out with every couple of weeks or whatever, they invite you out and you tell them, well, no, I can't do it this week because I'm gonna be at the gym, I'm gonna be at the studio. I just want to stay home and write tonight. I just want to be at home. When you tell people no and they don't know how to respect that, and they start to, try to bag on you like you're acting funny or just, it's because they don't know how to react to you evolving. And they tend to fall out by the wayside. And that's the beautiful thing about boundaries. Here's the thing. When you establish boundaries, you don't have to worry about cutting people off. The universe will do it for you. I've never had to physically cut someone off, block them, or talk about, we don't need to be friends anymore. When the energy isn't matching up anymore, they know, and they fall off. So, yeah, constant arguments and guilt trips from people around you, and it really be your own people, it can be rough. It can be really rough, but it's necessary. Life is easier once you get over that rough patch of trying to establish boundaries in your life. The peace of mind that comes from boundaries is I can't explain it.
Yeah, you don't feel guilty about making time for yourself. You don't always have to jump because people say, you do it because you want to. You know what I mean? You want to take your time, but you come first. Don't forget that.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. And especially as Black people, especially as Black women, I'm sorry not to exclude you out of this, Prince, but just especially as Black women, when we are constantly looked at as this strong, independent figure that doesn't need help, so people tend not to want to help us. People tend to marginalize us. People tend to, what's the word that I'm looking for? People tend to overstep and try and talk to us and act a certain way around us because they don't know how to, they don't expect us to have boundaries. They expect us to be wanting anything that comes our way because people feel like we're undesirable and blah, blah, blah. And that's a completely different discussion about colorism and racism and all that stuff. But it's important for Black women. It's important for Black people, period, to have a self-love routine and have boundaries around it. In corporate America, at coffee shops, at Storytime, don't let people come at you sideways. Take out your take out your metaphorical taser and let them have it.
There you go.
Okay.
Wow, that was.
No one on the show can be held responsible if you actually tase somebody.
Please don't. Please don't.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, Sarabi. That was.
Thank you.
I know.
Sorry, Prince. Younger me definitely needed to hear that. I mean, now that I've gone through my journey to where I am now, I can say that I've grown from that, but that did speak to younger me. That was me completely.
That was speaking to somewhat present me, to be quite honest with you, and I can be honest about that. I still have some ways to go, but that's the beauty in it. You know what I'm saying? I was close to giving my power to somebody else, but I have it back, and I'm not losing sight of because I've worked too hard to get to where I'm at now. I have worked too hard, and I'm not losing sight of that. I'm not.
And I am so proud of you for that.
That's the beauty of self-awareness. And I said this when we were talking off the show, but I'm going to say it again for anyone who needs to hear it. Self-love isn't always enough to keep you from making mistakes, but it is 100% of the time enough to get you back on track. So if you're out here dealing with relationships in your life that you feel like have a lack of boundary, if you feel like you're giving too much of yourself, analyze it. Start to set some boundaries and then ask us, because I know it's a live stream and we the only ones here, but comment on this video, slide in our DMs. We're gonna be tagged on the video on Instagram. So if anyone has any questions about how to establish boundaries with coworkers, with friends, with family members, we've been through it. That's why we're talking about it. I'm sorry. Well, I'm gonna say me because Shaki is looking like don't slide in my DMs. But
oh no, I don't mind.
Okay.
Side note too, because this happened to me. Don't let other people that you respect, dark chocolate, talk you into being friends with other people. Certain situations I got put in, just because I was the reasonable, I had this persona at Story 89 of being
Mother hen.
the mother hen or the happy one. Like it would be times where I would have to fake like I'm a happy person in general, but it would be times where I just felt like being Sarabi. I just want to be over there. Like just over there.
A little loud in here right now because my roommates are back and the dog barks. Give me 1 second. Hold on.
Okay, no worries. You want to be next to the espresso machine, Shakia?
I just with your thoughts over here with my thoughts and not like I don't want to have to smile all the time and be the happy one. Like, let's tap somebody else in, and I got put in that position, and then as the mother hen, I had to keep everyone pretty much and child. To deal with so many personalities, like I commend anybody who deal with like a large group of people trying to work, like bosses and all that. I like really shout you out because having different personalities and not everybody be on the same like wavelength, it's very difficult to juggle. Like, and so I know I got in a particular like situation, I got the how would you nicely put the trouble egg, and this trouble egg required a lot of attention. I don't particularly remember what we called her, what her name is, but it was a situation where I became sort of like her
banana nut muffin. That's what we call her.
Yeah, I became her like sponsor in a sense. Like everything, she would just come to me, and when I set up a boundary, it was like no. She wanted to call a meeting because I didn't want to be no legit. I didn't want to be her friend outside of the clock. I don't get paid to be your friend. Like I don't get paid to do that. It's work. It's work, and then there's friendship. And if I have to baby you at work, I'm not trying to be your friend in real life when we clock out. Like it's just that's too much. And then I have my own life.
You did call a meeting. That's terrible.
What is that crazy? And y'all know, you know me. I'm calm as long as you calm, but you're not gonna talk to me crazy. And then when the issue came out, it was because I didn't want to be her friend outside of work. Everybody in this meeting was like, "Are you serious?" I was very upset. First off, in my years of being at 39, I've never been pulled into a meeting because somebody was mad because I didn't want to be their friend. We here to get paid. Like
she was a special case.
That's what I mean.
But I told you, like I said, Story 9 will hire anyone.
Do not let other people, like your mentors, talk you into something you ain't trying to handle. Like, no is no. Sorry, that's your issue. Sorry.
Amen. You know you better than anyone else knows you. And if it doesn't align with your spirit, you don't go over there. Okay.
Remember when we went to lunch with her? We went to El Torito's or something.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, too. I got in a car accident right before that happened, too. I had no business trying to go out to dinner with her.
I know about El Torito's, but I know about El Cholo's. Baby, they got some coconut margaritas.
Look at him.
We was at El Torito's, and I hit a woman in an Audi, and I had no business leaving the house.
The universe is trying to tell you something. But like I said, that was just like really, really triggered me, and don't do it, people. Listen, it ain't worth it. Like it's not. Just say no, because other people crazy will try to rub off on you, and you ain't trying to take that energy with you. No, keep that to yourself.
Exactly, and something major key that we will be discussing deeper into next week's episode: boundaries with coworkers. I say this for my younger people, like age 18 to 25 and up, because old people be getting involved too. If you work with somebody and you find yourself attracted to them, don't do it. Go ahead and start looking for another job now because young people don't listen and you're going to get involved with them anyway after I just told your silly ass not to, and it's going to blow up. And it's going to be awkward, it's going to be toxic, and you're going to have to find another job anyway. So start looking for another job now. If you work with someone you're attracted to, get the hell out. Be proactive about it. I've done it twice. No, I'm sorry. I've done it once. The last time I did it, we weren't working together anymore. And it still ended up terribly. Friend, don't do it. Don't do it. Anything else?
Was there anything else on your list?
Yeah, because I add on to it because I'm not the only one who's been involved with a coworker in this group chat. Don't leave me out here hanging.
No. Listen here. It's very toxic.
I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I was crushing deep on Red Velvet. I really was. I kind of was crushing on White Chocolate, but you beat him to you got him. You got him before I did.
I didn't listen.
Hey,
I should have listened.
Listen, what's that saying?
Both of y'all almost went to jail after both of them trying to correct people on how they was treated, like in the store. Both of y'all was ready to go to work.
Come on, buddy. You know, because me and White Chocolate were involved at the same time. You and Pumpkin Spice were involved, and you and Pumpkin Spice was acting real crazy and brand new around Storytime. So it wasn't just, it was warranted behavior. Everyone was out here acting foolish because of personal stuff going on. We was just wilding out.
Will you believe too that I was constantly told that I was not having people's backs during this time frame? I was constantly like, you didn't support me, you didn't stand behind me. And I'm like,
you can go to hell.
The same way. Like, I'm not gonna say nothing. Why?
I didn't say any of that. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, you missed it. White Chocolate and Chocolate over here, they was losing their mind. And I played storylines until I was brought into it.
But Caramel and Pumpkin Spice started it though. Do you understand that y'all started it? Wasn't nobody else getting involved with no one on the clock until y'all did it.
No, it was people before. There were people before him.
Hot Tea was a part of it at one point to some degree.
What is going on? We'll put some of the blame on.
It wasn't me. It was definitely Dark Chocolate's thing because Dark Chocolate should have shut it all down. But
a long time ago,
he wasn't at his store. So shade. I'm throwing because I got beef with that man.
Well, we are at 47 minutes. This might be a time where we might need to revisit this conversation.
Child.
No, I still have a point to make, though.
We're almost don't shut her down. She's reclaiming her time.
Dark Chocolate Boss Man was meddling in your personal life and in Pumpkin Spice's personal life because y'all had just gone through breakups around the same time. And had he just minded his business, I don't know that y'all would have ended up together. Because then y'all ended up together and was fraternizing off the clock and was coming over my house. And then I ended up fraternizing with White Chocolate off the clock and had him come over my house. And
y'all,
that was out of our control.
My battery is on 5% right now on my laptop.
Okay. This is alluding to our next week's discussion. Sexual encounters with coworkers on the clock.
Oh,
we're getting to the tea. Okay.
Listen, there's a few tea bags in that cup. Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna learn how to look over on the right one next time. Child.
All right, then. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Story 89 show. You guys have a wonderful night. Continue to practice social distancing. Stay safe. Sanitize your hands.
Wash them hands.
And we will talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Don't leave yet, y'all.
You know you still lying to me.
No, I know.